Spacey Sims, and we're back with more Taisho Ellis, and we are continuing the wizard's route. Yay! So, anyway, we're just picking up where we left off. Evidently, the brothers had all gone back to their bedrooms. Thus, the wizard and I headed straight to Cinderella's room. I had my indecisive moments, but once I finally did make a decision, I acted on it right away. Oops. Cinderella's personal quarters were located in the ballroom on the first floor. With elegant chandeliers and plenty of floor space, it was the perfect place to throw a party. He lives in a ballroom? I mean, Cinderella, but it seems weird. You sleep in here? So, why am I the first on your list? Cinderella folded his arms and grumbled. Because you're the oldest. The wizard's smile didn't waver, and he replied without missing a beat. You say that, but I bet you think I'm the most likely suspect, don't you, detective? Cinderella looked at him suspiciously. No, perish the thought. How will you modify Cinderella's concerns? Flatter him. Part of the reason why we chose to go by age is because I knew you were the best person to ask about this kind of stuff, Cinderella. To prevent this conversation from going in circles, I hastily piped up. Yeah, you make a good point. I really know my stuff. Cinderella nodded gleefully. So what do you want to know? Thank you for your cooperation. First, let me ask you about your day-to-day life. Oh, and your relationships with the rest of your housemates. I go to work at sunrise, come home at sunset, and then I take a shower, eat dinner, work on my glass crafts, and go to bed. Rinse and repeat. Me and my brothers, I say we're on good terms, but we don't talk all that much. Pretty normal sibling stuff. And as for Risu, she's my fiancée. End of story. How do you feel about Lady Risu? I love her. What about it? Aw, Cinderella. It was so sudden I nearly swooned. However, is it her money that you love most of all? Are you a gold digger? At this, Cinderella quirked a brow. What are you trying to say, pal? I'm just asking a question, that's all. I'm wondering whether anyone's love for her is genuine. Aw, that would make me sad if it's not. But, I mean, that would make being with the wizard better than but they're all in love with me and I love them all and I feel bad that we can't have our man harem, you know? Somebody's got to be the bad guy. Why is it not clicking? Anyway. Additionally, can I ask how you came to live at the Risu estate and how you came to be engaged? We were homeless, so Arisu's nutjob father gave us a place to stay. Why is my mouse not clicking? It has new batteries in it, Jesus. He jerked a thumb in my direction without looking at me. Interesting. How did you end up homeless? Well... At this, he faltered. Cinderella, if I remember correctly, your family was very wealthy when you were young, correct? But then your father made some poor business decisions and took out predatory loans to make up for it. With no way to pay back the massively inflated debt, he abandoned you and your mother and fled the country. Sort of almost kind of how, Cinderella's route went. His father, money. You know what I mean? There was some shady shit going on, right? Life must have been hard for you after that. I imagine it was a drastic change, given how rich he used to be. Because he was, kind of using us, but then really fell in love with us, you know? So you think I want to marry her for the money? Well, do you? Cinderella glanced at me, then spoke in an icy voice. In that case, you can cross me off your list. If I'm after her money, then there's no way I'd want to kill her. After all, I won't get a cent of it if she's dead. A salient point. So does any of this have to do with the case? Not at the moment, no. Alright then, I guess we're done here. I got an early morning tomorrow, so it's my bedtime. Very well. Thank you for the enlightening conversation. It's kind of funny because he's like, yeah, so if I'm after her money, then I wouldn't want her dead. But he's not saying, no, I'm not after her money. And he's not directly saying yes, but you're getting the impression that maybe that's what he is. And then he's like, does this have a point? And the wizard's like, not exactly. The wizard, with us being there, is trying to show us that none of them really love you for you or for the right reasons. They love you for different things, Hey, Cinderella probably likes you as a human being, loves your money, and wants to marry you for that, but is that the right reason to marry someone just for their money? Like, I can tolerate them and we get along, but I'm not madly in love with them. It's really their money I love. You know? And like, Gretel just has a weird sister fetish, so. I mean, you know what I mean? And like, Red Riding Hood's like, I don't want to get married because women traumatize me. You know what I mean? Like, so they're all like, I'm sure they love you, like they care about you, but just they're not in love with you. And so it's like, I'm just trying to be nice about it. But like, I feel like that's the whole point of the wizard's route and like doing this is he's like, I just want you to see that they're not in love with you, but I am. I know you are, wizard, and I'm in love with you too. Fare thee well and have a good night. With one hand at his chest, the wizard bowed politely. Sweet dreams, Cinderella. In response, Cinderella smiled softly. Thanks. Good night. Next, we visited Red Riding Hood. Why does he live in the woods? He lived in a cabin a short distance from the main estate. Red, you in there? You can't be around us because we're a woman. Red, Mr. Wizard is here to see you. No matter how much I knocked, no answer came. The lights were on inside, but I knew Red Riding Hood wasn't the type to hide. If he was in there, he would have answered the door by now. I exchanged a glance with the wizard. He doesn't seem to be in there. Perhaps he's still in the living room. In that case, let's hurry back. He's not here either. Unfortunately, when we returned to the living room, Red Riding Hood was nowhere to be seen. Where on earth did he wander off to? Just in case, I checked under the table, but naturally he wasn't under there. Hey, Mr. I looked over, but before his name had fully left my lips, I stopped short. He was standing at the window, looking outside. His folded arms and blank expression afforded him a listless air. I admit, I was a little annoyed with him for zoning out, considering he was supposed to be helping me. But more than that, I was bewitched by his good looks. He didn't feel quite real. Almost like I was looking at a Hollywood actor on the silver screen. The wizard felt my gaze and glanced in my direction. He's outside. He pointed at the window. What? I hurried over, and sure enough, I could see Red Riding Hood standing out in the yard, staring at the gates. What is he doing out there? No, we just said he's staring at the gates. Not only was it wintertime, but it was the middle of the night. He had to be freezing his butt off. Wait, but we were just out there! How did we fail to notice him? Did we miss him on our way back inside? Those questions would have to wait. Red, what are you doing out here in the cold? Approaching him from behind, I called out to him. What are you... Oh, Mr. Risu, what's wrong? He whirled around startled, flailing his arms wildly. I literally just asked you the same thing. I gave him a puzzled look. Then he noticed the wizard standing next to me. No, it wasn't me. Out of nowhere, he started denying any wrongdoing. How do you respond to Red Riding Hood's claim? We agree with him. Question him. I mean, we're gonna question him, but agreeing with him seems to make sense. Evidently, he was in full-blown panic. I let out a small sigh. I know that, Red. Let's calm down, okay? I smiled softly at him, and he slowly came to a stop, like a robot running out of battery power. Okay. So what are you doing out here? He tugged his hood down lower over his eyes, possibly out of embarrassment. In light of the threat you've received, I've decided to stand guard outside, starting tonight. But it's the middle of the night, and it's winter. I blinked at him, dumbfounded. Make no mistake, Red Riding Hood was a kind-hearted, diligent man, but he lacked, common sense. Besides, if the letter's to be believed, then the culprit won't try anything until the next full moon. This, I felt, was a bulletproof argument. I wouldn't put much stock in the words of a criminal, would you? I wasn't expecting this rebuttal. In short, Red Riding Hood didn't trust the blackmailer to actually keep their promise. It was a valid point, and one I hadn't considered. I guess you're right. Indeed. Therefore, I must ask you to prioritize your own safety. But... No buts. He looked firmly into my eyes. His expression was so intense it made me want to bolt. Normally, I was the dominant type. I wasn't used to submitting, be it to criticism or anything else. Miss Arisu, Before he could finish... Achoo! An exaggerated sneeze brought us back to reality. So... And not to interrupt, but might I ask a few questions? Evidently, the wizard had been waiting for the chance to speak. It's like, were we forgetting that he was there? The way he rubbed his palms together, he looked like a second-rate villain. Right. Go ahead. Caught off guard, Red smiled stiffly and stepped away from me. It was obvious he was flustered. Red Riding Hood, you're betrothed to Lady Arisu, is that correct? Bed-roped. Bed-roped! Oh my god, you're gonna kill... you're trying to kill him, aren't you? Look at him, he's like, what? That's not... Whoa there, buddy. Rule number 1. Never underestimate the power of Red Riding Hood's dirty mind. His embarrassed mind. He's embarrassed because his mind is a dirty, dirty place and he imagines these things, and that's why he gets flustered by us existing in his general vicinity. I apologize. It appears I misheard you. Ahem. Betrothed, yes. You are correct. I am betrothed to her. Blushing beet red, he struggled to recover. Are you unsatisfied with that? Of course not. And this was the condition Mr. Arisu's father set for us after he graciously allowed us to live in his home. I can't do a full sentence in his voice. Like Cinderella, Red Riding Hood made mention of my father. My father worked as a doctor at a university hospital. He was a quiet, virtuous man with eccentric tastes and an irresponsible streak. It was he who enabled me to live with the 5 brothers, and it was he who approved our engagement. I'd expected the next question to center on that subject, but as it turned out, I was slightly off. Don't you find it a bit strange for all 5 of you to be engaged to the same woman? It's simply what Mr. Arisu decided. I see. So you're just following orders from her father and you don't actually love her at all? That's preposterous. But quite possibly the truth. Red Riding Hood denied it loudly. Our eyes met. Preposterous. Then he averted his gaze. So you're saying you would like to marry her if possible? His face flushed all over again, and he hung his head to escape my gaze. Then after a long silence, as it stands, I am unworthy of being her husband. I would need to change that. Miss Arisu, I vow to protect you. It's my sworn duty. He mumbled under his breath. Oh, Red. Like, so, Cinderella's kind of in love with us for the money. Red Riding Hood's kind of in love with us just because he wants to protect us, and it's kind of like, he feels like, this is the job I was told to do. Like, out of sense of duty. You know what I mean? Like, they're all, it's not, I mean, I feel like that's what the wizard's trying to tell us. Like, see, they might maybe they love you in their way, but it's not the right kind of way, you know? He was so shy and sweet and sincere. I loved him to bits. You seem dead set on keeping her safe. But do you keep your promises? At this, the blood drained from Red's face. Meanwhile, the wizard continued his merciless interrogation. Once upon a time, you told a lie that drove everyone away from you, or so I'm told. Is that true? No comment, I take it? Very well, I'll move on to my next question. I understand you work as a police officer. What exactly does that entail? A lot of things. Such as? It's classified. Mr. Wizard, Red's not really at liberty to discuss his work. I hastily cut in. He cares a lot about protecting the privacy of the citizens. I see. Can't argue with that, I suppose. Could you tell me the department you work for, at least? At this, Red finally seemed to concede. Red Riding Hood from the Bureau of Investigation. He answered matter-of-factly. Thank you. That's all the questions I had for today. Good luck with your work. Red turned his back to us, his expression hard. Please don't get pneumonia or anything, okay? I called out to him. I'll be all right. You take care, Mr. Risu. Will do. Good night, Mr. Risu. Good night, Red. Next up, Kaguya, the fourth son. We headed over to a single-story building a short distance from the mansion. We probably should have come straight here instead of looking for Red, but I wasn't thinking. Well, also, we totally skipped Snow White, so. The sign out front read, The Bamboo House. Yes? Kaguya called out from behind the lattice door. Sorry to bother you, it's me, Spacey Risu. At this, I heard him reach for the lock. However, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Can I have a moment of your time? Kaguya froze. Please, Kaguya, we just want to talk to you if that's okay. Desperately, I called out to him before he could ghost us. Yeah, of course. What do you want to know? Are you saying I'm the #1 suspect? He asked before the wizard could get a word in edgewise. No, nothing of the sort. For now, we're just getting to know everyone so we can organize our thoughts on the case. The wizard continued to smile unflinchingly. We, as in you and Puppet? She requested to tag along. Yeah? Right then, carry on. Likewise, Kaguya maintained a smile of his own. I love this. I just want to be here. Look, they even blend color-wise. They matte. This is right here my happy place. For some reason, this dueling smiles thing was making me really uncomfortable. For starters, what do you do for a living? I work as a waiter at a cafe. It's a one-of-a-kind building right in the heart of downtown. The owner took me in when I had nowhere else to turn. That would have been us back in his story. So, I mean, they're all their stories are a little kind of similar to what's going on here, you know? Kaguya looked at me and I nodded. You're currently engaged to Lady Arisu, is that right? Right, yeah. Are you unsatisfied with the way things are now? Not really. Have you ever wished your brothers were out of the picture? At this, Kaguya lost steam and fell silent. Rather still, he stopped smiling, which suggested he was deeply opposed to the question. After a long silence, he let out a sigh. We're family, mate. We may fight over the same bird, but it's nothing worth killing over. Ask any of them and they'd agree with me. I see. Yes, it's possible you feel that way, but can you be sure the others feel the same? Oh, I'm very sure. After all, none of us want to hurt our puppet. He grinned at me. Aw, Kaguya. He was so mature and sensitive and considerate. I loved him dearly. Of course, I apologize. I can't imagine any of you would lay a hand on your dear fiancé. Forgive my rudeness. No trouble, mate. I can see how you'd be suspicious, but do try not to jump to conclusions without any evidence, yeah? Kaguya smiled stiffly. Right you are. Now then, one last question. The wizard held up his index finger. I'm told you previously lived in an orphanage. Can you explain that? Where were your brothers during that time? How is it you were the only ones shunted around from relative to relative? At this, Kaguya's mask slipped, and the smile fell from his face entirely. Will you let the wizard pry into Kaguya's past? No is the right answer. No. Mr. Wizard! The wizard was trying to probe into his past. This I couldn't abide, and I let him know it. But he didn't even spare me a glance. He simply kept watching Kaguya, awaiting an answer. After a long silence, Kaguya finally spoke. Spoke? It was like spoke? Came out weird. Do I absolutely have to answer that? It's not mandatory, for the record. Kaguya smiled softly. Perhaps he was relieved to hear it. But it only lasted for a moment before his expression turned into something mournful. From there, he told us a bit about his past. For as long as I can remember, I was alone. No parents. My only option was to do as my relatives told me. No matter where I went, no one truly accepted me. Maybe it was foolish of me to hope for it. After all, I was only ever a burden to them. My whole life, no one ever loved me. No one ever needed me. And this is where the wizard's getting to, like, so you're happy to be married to Spacey because someone loves you and needs you. But, you know what I mean? So when I found out about my brothers, I was chuffed to bits. They gave me a place to belong, and it's meant the world to me. For the first time, I wasn't alone anymore. Like, he loves us because we provide him a place to not be lonely. You know what I mean? Like, next, we paid a visit to Snow White. His room was located on the second floor, the one with a vanity. I knocked on the door and he promptly responded. Who's there? Snow White, is that you? Arisu, just a minute. He didn't come to the door right away. Instead, I could hear him running around in there. Sorry I took so long. Why do you need so late Huh? After a solid 5 or so minutes had passed, he finally opened the door. For some reason, he was unusually out of breath, but I decided not to comment on that. Sorry to disturb you. Mr. Wizard was wondering if we could speak with you privately. I stepped back and gestured to the wizard beside me. I just have some questions. Could I trouble you for a few moments of your time? But Snow White slammed the door in our faces. Looks like that's a no. Snow White! Snow White! The wizard pounded impatiently on the door. Knock it off. When Snow White finally opened the door, we both quietly took a step back. So what did you want to talk about? At last he seemed willing to entertain our request. Thank you very much. Let's get started. You're currently betrothed to Lady Arisu, correct? The wizard started with his default opening question. Yup, sure am. Do you have any questions or complaints about having to share your fiancé with your brothers? You sure don't mince words, do you? In this case, I feel like there's no point in beating around the bush. After all, these circumstances are practically unheard of. Snow White nodded, smiling faintly. Sure, I admit the situation must seem strange, but there's nothing I can do about it. I have no problems being Arisu's fiancé. I care about everyone getting along. All I can do is simply wait for her to make her decision. So you're saying the choice is hers to make? Yep, that's what I said. So if she were to choose someone other than you wouldn't feel resentful whatsoever? At this, Snow White closed his eyes. It's her choice. Nothing I can do about it. It sounds like he doesn't exactly, love us, where he'd be like, no, I'd be so jealous and upset and hurt that she chose someone else and it would break my heart. He's more like, whatevs. Like, he's just going along with it because he had, you know what I mean? Like, do you agree it's purely your choice? I mean, yes, but the right answer is apparently no. The words nothing I can do made me feel a tiny bit sad. Yes, I was currently engaged to 5 men, and I was free to marry any one of them. But if I didn't end up choosing him, would he truly be able to simply let it go? It's weird because it goes no, no, yes. And I'm like, we just did no. We just didn't. Okay, because it's like, fuck. It's like, I'm going to get confused and be like, which one were we on? Is this a no one or the yes one? But if I didn't end up choosing him, would he truly be able to simply let it go? And if so, could he still claim to love me? I shook my head, pushing the painful thoughts from my mind. Again, this is the realization we're supposed to get to. Then I looked up and made eye contact with Snow White. That said, if you wanted to choose me, I wouldn't complain. He smiled as if he'd read my mind. Incidentally, how do you usually spend your days here? I don't do much. Read books, sleep, one or the other. You don't go outside? No. Do you ever wish you could? At this, Snow White's icy countenance twitched slightly. What's that supposed to mean? Snow White, I'm told you were the first person to discover your late mother's body. It's believed she died from a stress-induced stroke. I imagine it must have been rather traumatizing for you since the two of you were so close. This is definitely all pieces of their stories, so it's kind of like, I think we're either in a mental institution or we're like in a coma somewhere. Like, We've been in dreams in multiple ones, haven't we? Wasn't there... Was it... Which other one did... One of them we ended up in the hospital, didn't we? Like, Gretel locked us up in that cabin. Snow White was living in a dream. You know, well, it was a magic mirror, but it was a dream. And then, like, I thought one of the other ones we ended up in the hospital. So, like, it's kind of like, anyway. And if that was what caused you to close yourself off, I wouldn't blame you. What you doing? How is it that you know about that? Snow White asked in a quiet voice. I couldn't speak. I could feel the tension in the air like static against my skin. Oh, I have my sources. I'm a detective after all. You talk like you're omniscient. What are you, a magic mirror? Snow White replied snidely, a rare glimpse of the emotions he generally kept under wraps. By the way, did your brothers know about your mother? Eventually, Snow White caved to the wizard's persistent questioning. Kaguya and Gretel never met her. They weren't living with us at the time. He spoke frankly. What about Cinderella and Red Riding Hood? Yes, they knew her. Did they also find her body? No, they didn't find her. Well, it's possible Red Riding Hood did. How very unspecific of you. Like you said, I'm a shut-in. I barely even talk to them. Besides, we have an unspoken agreement not to talk about this stuff. I see. Thank you for your time. The wizard pressed a hand to his chest and gave a slight bow. Evidently, that was his final question. Oh, wait, nearly forgot. One last question, sorry. Would that be all right with you? He held up an index finger. Go for it. Snow White accepted it without batting an eye. Who was it that told them about your mother's passing? After a brief silence, Snow White stared into the distance. I was the one who told Cinderella. I see. Okay, then. Lastly, we paid a visit to the baby of the family, Gretel. This room was originally a summer kitchen, but because he was such a fan of sweets, he had since remodeled it into a living space. Not like we were using it anyway. The weirdest shit, he lives in the kitchen. One half of the room was fully furnished kitchen dining area, while the other half was packed full of bookshelves. So, I noticed you guys have been going around talking to everyone. Is it my turn now? Gretel sat at one end of the table, teacup in hand. I see you've been paying attention. Obviously. Do you know what time it is? You've been dragging my dear sister all over the house. I already have 4 romantic rivals. I don't need anyone else trying to get their filthy mitts on her. Yeah, well, the wizard's gonna get his filthy mitts on me, and I'm okay with that. I love him. Look, he's also wearing a suit. Oh, okay. I thought it double-clicked, and I was like, wait, what? Glaring, he set his cup down on its saucer with a loud clack. So you're engaged to Lady Arisu as well, is that it? Yes, that's right. He donned a winning smile and nodded. But she's also your sister? At this, Gretel's smile stiffened, but only for a moment. It's merely a title of respect. After all, her parents have formally adopted us. Thus, she is technically my sister. And if she wasn't your sister, would you want to marry her? That would be disgusting. Because Gretel is a weird pervert. Right, you were adopted. When exactly did you start living here? I was born here, as I'm sure you're well aware. Right, of course. In that case, how were you adopted? How should I know? According to my brothers, my real parents are dead or AWOL or something. But I've never met them, so I couldn't care less. As far as I'm concerned, my only family is sister and my brothers. Okay, so we're basically trying to say, okay, Gretel has lived here his entire fucking life. Doesn't this seem a little fucking weird? It doesn't match. Like, okay, the family was in trouble, so we adopted them and now they all live here. But Gretel's basically always lived here. Never met his parents. Which, I mean, okay. And, like, Snow White explained, like, his mother died, but Kaguya was off abandoned. Gretel was living here. So, I mean, that could kind of make sense. You could be like, okay, she had the 2 older siblings. They were off. She was taking care of Snow White. Kaguya passed around from family member to family member for some reason. Snow White was her precious, and she got rid of Kaguya, and Gretel just ended up here. Like, okay, that's some kind of weird family dynamic, but fine. But, like, Gretel was always here and always knew what, and then, well, I mean, okay. True, we didn't move here till recently, so it's not like he grew up. But I kind of feel like the wizard's trying to get up, so, like, you only know her as your sister, but you want to fuck her. You got some issues, man. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, kind of weird, but anyway. But they're consistent. Except for in Cinderella's route. But I like how it gets consistently more weird as it goes. Like, Cinderella's route was, like, straightforward. Like, Kaguya was our bodyguard. We left. We hung out at... Oh, yeah, sure, we'll board here and help you out in the kitchen because we're trying to investigate our secret fiancé, right? And then these are his siblings. And then, like, Red Riding Hood's route, it was like someone was threatening us. And so Red Riding Hood was going to protect us or whatever. So they were, like, simple, straightforward stories, you know, not too much. And then you get, like, the Gretel is our brother, and he wants to bone us. What? And then we still had siblings. Was Gretel even in Kaguya's route? Like, but we were, like, they were our brothers. We were living with Kaguya. Or no, we worked for Cinderella. But then they were all kind of like, and now we're like, oh, and then we're all related in Snow White's one kind of, and now they're all our brother. Like, they're starting to become our family, and we had, like... kind of disturb. Maybe they're all our quote unquote. We think of them as family because we've lived in the mental institution with them for so long. I don't know. Like, it's just getting a little more like things are getting a little weirder as we get deeper into the story, which is kind of interesting. As you fall deeper into the dream, things get a little more fucking bizarre. But we just don't think they are, but they are. Like, I see. In that case, let me ask, what do you do for a living? I'm just an ordinary college student. I wake up in the morning, go to class, come home, and either study or experiment with new recipes. You sound like a model student. That's because I am a model student. Rumor has it you got yourself into a fair bit of trouble at school in the past. Is there a problem? Gretel asked in a low growl. Not at all. I suppose even the brightest stars have their dark shadows. Detective or not, isn't that an invasion of my privacy? I apologize. It's all part of the investigation. The wizard offered a strained smile and shrugged. More importantly, have you made any progress in finding the culprit? These interrogations you're doing serve as proof that you suspect us, correct? And you're dragging my poor sister along with you? I know Snow White said the culprit might be among us, but... Gretel seemed reluctant to let the wizard control the conversation. What if he's right? What then? Purely a hypothetical question, mind you. If you found out one of your dear brothers was trying to blackmail her, I wouldn't do anything. What? This response caught me off guard. Hastily, I clapped a hand to my mouth. Gretel briefly glanced in my direction, then looked back to the wizard. Remember what Snow White said? If you think about who'd stand to gain from it, it's us. We're all in love with her, but thus far she hasn't chosen anyone. And only one of us can end up with her. Or none of you. Sure, it'd be great if all of us could stay together happily ever after, but that's no different from putting our heads in the sand. Hey! 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 We absolutely can all be together. Jesus, stop it, game. Stop trying to be like, women can only have one man, but men need to spread it around. Stop perpetuating that bullshit. I want my fucking man harem, damn it. Gretel, stop being an asshole. We're trying to get the wizard to join the man harem, not chase him away. God, ruining everything. Now this blackmailer is rocking the boat. Whoops. And it's created a ripple effect. I doubt anyone else will have the balls to say this, but if you ask me, this is exactly what we need. At last there can finally be peace. So, you believe that the culprit is indeed among you, and you feel grateful to them for doing what they did. I've been so anxious wondering whose sister loves the most. All that matters is the top spot. Everyone else will be thrown away like yesterday's trash. Ouch. That's not... And then why didn't you just kill the others and take her for yourself? The wizard cut in before I could finish my rebuttal. Cinderella, Snow White, Red Riding Hood, Kaguya. You could have killed them all and taken her for yourself. That way you'd reap all the rewards. Have you never considered that? Gretel's like, don't eat those cookies. Slides them further away. I guess we're not putting those cookies out tomorrow. At this, Gretel fell silent. What was the significance of this pause? Confirmation? Denial? Hesitation? I couldn't tell. It's either confirmation or he's like, oh, you're giving him ideas, wizard. Would you approve of me if I did that, sister? Would you approve of Gretel's hypothetical killing spree? No, but we're supposed to say yes? What kind of answers are these? Like, I understand the no, don't do that to Kaguya. But then talking to Snow White and being like, no, I was like, really? Because I feel like it should have been yes. And this one is like, no? I feel like we should say no, but it's no, no, yes. And this is the happy ending. Are you sure, guide? Sure I would. I answered without hesitation. It'd be proof of just how much you loved me. Or we're supposed to say that, maybe this, because it'd be proof of how much you loved me. Oh, you don't love me enough to kill your brothers. I mean, that's kind of a fucked up thing. You should, that's psycho levels. But, like, is that to get us to start going, like, he doesn't love me because he didn't try to kill his siblings? Again, that's kind of fucked. Really, wizard, you want to marry me? Because I sound a little crazy. Wait, really? You'd forgive me? If so, then I have a whole bunch of murders to start planning. No, don't! I was joking! He started to rise from his chair, but I hastily stopped him. Alas, what a shame. I wasn't sure exactly how sincere he was being, but he looked genuinely disappointed. We're supposed to know that he's insane. Then he took a graceful sip of his tea and looked at the wizard as if the whole conversation had never happened. That said, I do have questions. Like what? The wizard lowered the cup from his own lips and smiled. You're supposing one of us five sent the blackmail letter, but I can't imagine any of us would ever threaten sister. Which brings me to my next point. Mr. Wizard, I don't accept your presence here. For all we know, you might be the culprit. Therefore, I demand you prove your innocence right here and now. What for? The wizard set his cup down on the table and leaned forward on his elbows. He's kind of like, what do I have to gain if she marries one of you? Because you know too much. Well, I am a detective. And that doesn't make it okay for you to stick your nose in our business. Prove my innocence. I mean, Mr. Wizard didn't show up of his own accord. He came because Ryoshi asked him to. Doesn't that count as proof? He hadn't asked me for help, but I offered it nonetheless. I still think we sent ourselves the letter and we just don't remember. Isn't it possible Huntsman is in on it? Well, I can't deny that. But I wouldn't benefit from it. Lady Arisu is merely my client, nothing more. What would I stand to gain if she were to marry one of you? Well, at this, Gretel faltered. The wizard had a point. The most benefit I can see is in putting the case to rest once and for all. But then there wouldn't have been a case if I wrote the letter. So it would have been pointless. I must solve this case! That I would never have forced myself to solve if I hadn't written the letter. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, it seems kind of a roundabout way to keep myself busy. Gretel still didn't appear convinced, but at the same time, he seemed to sense that there was no point in pressing further. Fine, whatever. For now, you're free to sniff around as much as you like. I'll help where possible, so if you have any more questions, come see me anytime. He raised a hand and shooed us away. Thank you kindly. The more cooperation you can provide, the faster we can solve the case. The wizard pressed a hand to his chest and bowed gracefully. No problem. Personally, I'm excited to make you my guinea pig for all my potential poisonous new recipes. Not to be outdone, Gretel donned a sardonic sneer. Wow. Now that we had spoken all 5 brothers, the 2 of us returned to the living room. The wizard sat down on the sofa and fixed me with a meaningful smile. Well, now we've spoken to everyone. I must say, Lady Risu, it appears the 5 of them really love you, don't they? So have you changed your mind about choosing someone? It would solve everything, you know. I could tell he was joking, but I didn't respond. Obviously, I knew the easiest solution would be to choose one of them, but I couldn't. Honestly, if it came to that, I would rather just die. Of course, dying wasn't my preferred option, which was why I'd hired a detective in a last-ditch effort to find the culprit. Say, Mr. Wizard? Ignoring his question, I decided to ask one of my own. When are we going to get a CG of our wizard? What is it? Why did you ask them that stuff? What stuff? You kept digging into their pasts, prodding at their old wounds. He also kept pointing out that maybe they don't love you for the proper reasons. They might care about you and love you, but they're not in love with you necessarily for the sake of being in love with you. Like, wow, I just happen to love you. It's like, well, I mean, we were kind of told to be your fiancés. So, like, and that, I mean, like, I like her. Sure, it's great. She's my sister, and I'm turned on by sisters. If she wasn't my sister, I wouldn't even want to be here. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. It was something I had wondered the whole time as I stood there, listening to each interrogation. That said, I didn't feel I had the right to criticize his work when I had no experience in the field myself, hence I had stayed quiet. Their trauma, you mean? He spoke in a quiet voice, smiling faintly. Somehow it felt like he was being condescending, and I snapped back at him. Yes, their trauma. They may not show it, but they've all gone through some rough stuff in the past. Stuff they wish they could forget. Yes, I imagine so. He nodded, and I felt satisfied in my rebuttal. Feeling cocky, I kept going. So why dig it up at all? Is this going to help us find the culprit? Yes, of course. For a second, this threw me for a loop. I thought I had the moral high ground, but it felt like he was suggesting I was being hysterical or something. By having a precise understanding of their pain and suffering, I can plan my next moves accordingly. How does that work? It struck me as absurd. Basically, I'm trying to get a grasp of them as individuals. I don't follow. I mean, I'm the one the culprit's after. If you're going to do some digging, isn't it my past that matters? Yours? All right then, out of curiosity, what's your life story? You're just going to come right out and ask? Yeah, is there a problem? Like, you offered it. Why don't you just ask what my life story is? So what's your life story? Wow, you're really going to ask me that? Girl. You know, I assumed you already knew everything, but I guess not, huh? I retorted sarcastically. No one in this world is omnipotent, after all. True that. I snickered. All I know about you is your family, your current situation, and your personal goals. That's a lot! I mean, what's left to investigate at that point? My lips curled into a defiant smirk. At this, the wizard rose to his feet and strode right over to me. Then, before I could react, he pointed at my chest. Your heart. You see, I don't quite understand how you tick. His calm smile had vanished without a trace. It felt like he was criticizing me, and my heart thumped in my chest. I don't want to sit back and let the culprit murder me. That's why I hired you, as a last-ditch effort. I don't have a dark past, nor do I have any trauma of my own that we're aware of. I'm not like them. I was blessed with a privileged life and a happy family. I see. Smirking, he took half a step backwards. What if all of their stories, like, we found our dead mother, but she was always mean to us, and we're, like, and, like, our father lost all of her, like, all the father losing the money in Cinderella's, but the mother being, like, overprotective and, like, never letting us leave the house and thinking we're a monster, kind of, which is also, like, Red Riding Hood and Snow White a little bit. But then she died, like, the Snow White part, and then, like, we had a weird kink fetish for our brother. Like, but also got passed around family member to family member. Like, of all these little pieces of their stories is really our story. And, like, Ryoshi isn't our brother. he's our that's the brother fetish part. Like, we have a fetish for our brother, but he's not really our brother. He's our doctor in the mental institution that we're in because of all this trauma we suffered. Because she goes, I don't have any trauma. My life's perfect. And all of their lives are tragic. And then, like, we keep going about dreams. And, like, what if we're, like, this is all little bits and pieces of our life that we're projecting onto these characters that we created in our dream. And, like, I mean, I guess Alice would be, like, the real end goal because he's the last one. You know what I mean? And, like, Ryoshi and Wolf are just, like, side characters that you never romance. And then the fan disc version, I think... Is there a fan... I mean, someone said there was, and then said they have routes, and then I was like, I didn't even know there was one, but... Because I don't think that's part of the, like, after kind of, like, the epilogue or anything that comes with Alice's route. But, you know what I mean? Like, this is all, like, everyone... Their trauma, their issues are little things that we've been projecting on them, and it's really us. And that's why we don't remember who we are, and, like, Alice is in that dark place with us in the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, some kind of weird thing like that. Anyway. Smirking, he took half a step backwards. It's like, you know what I mean? It's just, you kind of feel something like that is happening here. I don't know. Freed from his scrutiny, I looked around the room and caught sight of the clock. It was getting late. I mean, I'm actually amazed because at this point... It's taken so long, if you think about it, from episode 1, 2, and 3. You know what I mean? Like, for everything to come out, for us to... Sorry, I got distracted for a second. Anyway, I'm surprised that I've not come across... Well, I haven't looked, and I'm not purposely avoiding it, but I'm not purposely looking for any kind of spoilers on the Taisho Alice story that tell you... You know, I think in the synopsis on the Steam page, it might kind of tell you a little bit about their story. So it might have said, and I didn't read it for this one, but it might have said something about, like, and Gretel's like, oh, you wake up and you're in a cage. It's like, oh, here we go. Like, so I think I kind of already knew Gretel was going to be, like, a little fucked up because of that. You know, I kind of knew what was going to happen in that respect. And this one would probably say something about, like, oh, you know, you have to marry one of your fiancés and you're... the wizard's a detective or whatever, you know what I mean? But I haven't gone out and read, like, what happens in the story. So let me read what a synopsis of the wizard's route. Let me read what happens. Let me read what the end goal of the story is, because there's, like, these little things, and there's going to be something that comes out at the end that kind of ties all these together, you know? But I haven't read anything about the overarching, and I haven't accidentally spoiled it. So, which I think is just kind of amazing for the fact that it's been, like, probably over a year since we started these games started getting released, you know what I mean? Like, 2 and 3 came out pretty succinctly fast after each other, but, like, between part 1 and part 2 was a while, because they wanted to make sure that, you know, it was going to do well before they localized the rest of it, so. You know what I mean? But, like, I'm just surprised it never got spoiled for me, thank God. Because, like, that would suck. You'd be like, what's the point? I'd still play it, but it would ruin some of the fun. Anyway, it was getting late. My, look at the time. Why don't you stay here for the night? Why, thank you. I'd like that very much. I'd like it too. Now you're part of the Manhair. It's like Hotel California. You can check out when you want, but you can never leave. Now that you've walked in here, you're stuck here forever, Mr. Wizard. Oh, you can walk outside, but you can't leave the grounds. Oh my god, we're all dead and this is the afterlife. You know how many games that's happened in? So, like, it wouldn't surprise me. We're not going to know until Alice is, but I feel like this is more, like, there's more things that are, like, more mysteries that are popping up in these than the earlier ones, you know? I dreamed of you again last night. Alice? Suddenly, I found myself lost in a world of darkness. But here's what I don't like. This is the wizard's route, and yet we're dreaming of Alice? It kind of feels like. So it just feels weird. No matter where I went, the scenery around me remained static and unchanging. It was like the darkness had consumed everything. All sense of direction, even the very concept of time itself. I hope the happy ending in the wizard's route isn't like, yeah, we need to find our soulmate. Thanks, wizard. It's like, no, I get to romance the wizard, right? Because, like, otherwise, what's the point? Were I to stand perfectly still and hold my breath, the only sound would be that of my own heartbeat. Just then, someone's voice rang out through the black void. It felt like they were calling me, so I headed in the direction of the voice. There, what appeared before me was a giant looking glass. I prodded the surface of the mirror with my finger, and it rippled like water. Yearning to travel to the other side, I reached out to the mirror. Okay, so I mean, like, either way, this could be hinting at Alice, it could be hinting at the wizard. And, like, maybe overarching whole game, it's supposed to be hinting at Alice, but this route, it's hinting at the wizard? I mean, we'll find out when it gets to the end. If they never tell us, then you would think for this route, it's hinting at the wizard. But then you're like, but maybe overall it's hinting at Alice. Because this is where we always meet Alice in the very beginning, you know? Anyway. Then I walked through the glass and jumped down into the looking glass world. Now open your eyes. I did as instructed and the darkness turned to light. Do you know where you are right now? We're in the hospital! In front of me was a middle-aged man wearing a lab coat and a fake smile. See? I told you we're in a mental institution the whole time. I chose not to answer his question. However, he misinterpreted my silence as hesitation. Relax. I'm your doctor and I want to help you. He didn't ask, but okay. Now listen. Your role is to guide the others. Only you can accomplish this. The others inside you, they're not perfect like you are. You've been through a lot of pain and misery. It must have hurt a great deal, but it's all in the past. No one's going to hurt you now. You're a strong person. I'm sure you can overcome that pain and go on to have a bright future. But to that end, we must eradicate the rest. It's your life. You are in charge. But he says you're a strong person, not you're a strong woman. So are we supposed to take that as like, maybe we are not us right now? Now tell me, what's your name? What's your name? But I couldn't satisfy his expectations, because we're not Spacey or Isu. After all, this is weird. If this ends up, like, we're in a hospital and this is actually a dream or like some kind of fever-induced coma kind of thing, like whatever, it's gonna be strange that Snow's was like a dream. This is like a dream. We're always kind of in a dream in the very beginning. You know what I'm saying? It's just like all signs point to this is all in our head, and I don't know why. Like, is it literally just like medically induced, like we're dreaming and we're just like on so much medication, or are we like insane and this is all an insanity dream? Like, you know what I mean? Is it a fever dream, insanity dream? What's happening? Early that morning, before dawn, I was in the kitchen tying my apron strings and getting ready to make breakfast for the 7 of us. Everyone was still asleep except for the wizard, who sat on the nearby sofa reading the newspaper. Did you get enough sleep last night? He looked up from his paper. Oh, yes, I slept like a baby. I'm feeling great this morning. Glad to hear it. I flipped the French toast sizzling in my frying pan. Oh, that reminds me, Mr. Wizard. Yes? If possible, I'd like you to stay here and continue your investigation until you find the culprit. Or until the next full moon, anyway. Sure, I don't mind, but... He looked a bit perplexed by my request. I started to worry if perhaps I'd asked a little too much of him. I'm really not looking forward to what's about to happen next. He let out a sigh and smiled awkwardly. What do you mean? When your fiancés find out I'm staying here, they'll be furious. No, but this is... See, Wizard, this is what you don't understand about the man harem. All of a sudden, there's someone new, and they're like, wait, what? And you're like, guys, this is the wizard. He's the newest addition to the man harem. And everybody's like, okay, cool, fine, whatevs. Everybody understands that every time we play a new game, new boys get brought into the man harem. They know this. They're used to it. The only time it's frustrating is like, Spacey, we don't have enough room. We're gonna need to expand. I know, guys. It's fine. I'm just saying. And right at that exact moment, the hell is he doing here at the ass crack of dawn? This was the first thing out of Cinderella's mouth as he walked in. He's the newest addition to my harem. Hello there, Cinderella. Wonderful morning we're having, isn't it? The wizard set his paper on the table and waved cheerfully. Wait. Why the hell are you acting like you just moved in? Hey, Risu, what's going on here? Cinderella stormed over to me and demanded an explanation as if he were owed one. He does live here, so kinda. Let's wait until everyone's awake before we have this conversation. What for? He furrowed his brow at me dubiously as I pressed the toast down with my spatula. Well, I don't want to have to repeat myself 4 more times, now do I? After breakfast, it was time to have a chat. Naturally, the topic was, what the fuck is the wizard doing here first thing in the morning? So I told them I planned to have him stay until either he caught the culprit or the deadline rolled around. I don't like it. It's one thing to have some rando investigate us. That I can accept. Why the hell does he have to stay here? Cinderella slammed his hands on the table. Right, yeah. Surely Mr. Wizard has other business to attend to and such. I don't, actually. It's just how I imagine his personality, but Kaguya is like, don't you have other shit to do? And he's like, no, not at all. I have, like, literally nothing better to do. Like, I just love the way he says that. I don't, actually. Like, so, you know, he's just so nonchalant and happy about it, and everyone else is like, I hate you. You be quiet. Sorry. What does it matter? We have plenty of guest rooms. Considering the fact that Cinderella is sleeping in the ballroom, and Gretel is sleeping in a fucking kitchen, I'm just saying we have plenty of fucking room. And Kaguya seems to sleep in an inn in the middle of town. He doesn't actually live here. And and Red Riding Hood sleeps in a cabin in the woods he sleeps in the shed. Like, only Snow White sleeps in a bedroom. So, like, I'm guessing we have plenty of room. Besides, he's a detective. Isn't it smart to keep him close at hand in case of danger? It was my idea, so naturally I was in favor of it. However, it isn't smart at all. What if he tries to have his way with you? Yeah, that's the point of inviting him to the man harem. I mean, that's right. Men are beasts, you know. Yeah, and our puppet's a tempting morsel. Every single one of them protested against the plan. As I expected, it was going to take a lot of work to convince them. That said, it felt like the conversation was taking a weird turn. Did they think there was something romantic between me and the wizard? Yes, because there is. Can you see yourself falling for the wizard? Where the fuck is yes as an answer, but the right answer is maybe. Maybe? Can you see yourself falling for the wizard? Yes! Exclamation point, all capital. Y-E-S. Fuck yes, bitch. Let me have him. Granted, he was a handsome guy and his confidence was admittedly sexy. I glanced at him out of the corner of my eye. What is it? Nothing. Unfortunately, he caught me in the act. I quickly turned away. Honestly, what was I thinking? Shaking away the distraction, I took a deep breath. Mr. Wizard and I have a strictly professional relationship. I asked him to stay for that reason only. I don't know what you're all worried about, but there's nothing funny going on. This was my rebuttal to anyone who didn't approve of me spending time with the wizard. After giving the 5 brothers a moment to exchange a glance, I looked at each of them in turn. Kaguya tilted his head with a stiff smile, while Snow White and Cinderella nodded. All right. If Risu says this is purely professional, then I'm willing to let it go. Cinderella! Thank you. I cut in quickly before more arguing could start. Well, what about college? Right. That. You're not planning on having him follow you around everywhere like some kind of bodyguard, are you? I mean, it worked in Red Riding Hood's route. With a scowl, Cinderella jerked his thumb at the wizard. Naturally, we all turned to look at him. Actually, yes. Oh, well, there you have it. We nodded as if we'd planned it all along. What was that little pause? I turned away and started whistling, pretending I hadn't heard the question. Sorry, fellas. I don't mean to steal your girl or anything, but it's what the lady wants. Yeah, I don't mean to steal your girl, but I'm gonna steal your girl. I fucking love it. It's great. The wizard stood in front of me, shielding me from Cinderella. Lady Arisu, rest assured, you'll be in safe hands with me. I'm looking forward to it. He turned back and shot me a wink. Cool, thanks. Sister, forget about him. I would be far more useful to you. You know I could make short work of a thug or two. Probably. They're like, they're gonna hurt your sister, Gretel. Gretel fucking go apeshit. Then, with Gretel's interjection, the conversation took a slightly different turn. However, but Gretel, you have college too, you know. I'll just tell them he came down with the flu or something. No. Gretel, you need to focus on getting your degree. Otherwise, you won't get a good job. It's like Wizard's like, no. I'm trying to keep her for myself. Because, you know, I'm a tasty morsel. Puppet's a tasty morsel. And then what about me? I could call out sick from work and... Kaguya, you must realize what it means to be the poster boy of your cafe. Without you there, why, the customers will be devastated. True. You think so? In that case, I shall be your bodyguard. I am the most ideal candidate. Red Riding Hood, you're a police officer. You need to protect the lives of all the citizens, not just her. But... Ha! Fine then. I'll be the bodyguard and... Cinderella, you have a job of your own, and as I recall, your industry doesn't really look lightly on slackers. One by one, the wizard shot them all down. Snow White? I'm staying home. So are we in agreement that I'm the best man for the job? At least they were all willing to protect us except for Snow White, like God. Snow White. Selfish much? But... No buts, mister! I shut him down, leaving no room for argument. Cinderella fell silent. Now then, isn't it about time you headed out? Don't forget to take your lunch! I gave him a little push. Cripes! The boss is gonna yell at me. Likewise, I'd better head down to the station. Hey, detective! I'm gonna let you handle this, but if you lay a hand on Arisu, you're dead meat, got it? Got it. And so we all went our separate ways for the day, and we are going to go our separate ways as... ways? I can't speak today. As this is the end of this part. Yay! I hope you've enjoyed it. Anyway, I will see you guys next time. Remember to give the video, I'm stretching, I'm so tired, a big thumbs up, and subscribe to see more.